This is the first of two video sessions covering commission and decommission planning. In this first session, we will review commission planning and creating commission work orders. To get to the planning page, navigate to the IT Ops menu, Device Management, and Planning. The purpose of this page is twofold. First, to plan for commissions and decommissions using what-if scenarios. And second, to create work orders once you're satisfied with the plan. It all starts with the what-if scenario planning form, so let's step through it. Notice the yellow banner warning us that our power values are not up to date. So before proceeding, let's make sure to update our power by clicking on the Update Power button. There we go. Next, select the what-if scenario type, either commissioning or decommissioning. Commissioning is the default, so I'll leave it at that. Next, select the commission request ticket for which we're doing our planning. To do this, uncheck the Automatically Create Request, click on the Commission Request field, and select a request ticket from the drop-down list. On the other hand, if you're doing general planning with no particular request ticket in mind, then check the Automatically Create a Request, and the portal will create that request for you through the process. In this case, I want to use ticket 12184. By selecting 12184, the rest of the form fills out all by itself. The purchase order is not applicable. There is no customer reference in this case. The request asks for beginning rack of A5, ending rack of A10. The functional group was selected as compute, and the requester is requesting Dell R720XDs. Additionally, the request is requesting UPS redundancy for these servers, and they're requesting a production copper cable and a management Ethernet copper cable be connected to these devices. The first field that you as a planner now need to address is the power by field. There are three options. Most companies mandate the option to be used based on their acceptable risk profile. For example, one company may require all commissioned devices to be allocated power equal to the manufacturer's faceplate value. Another company may have a policy of derating the faceplate by, say, 30%. And a third company may have analyzed their devices to know what each device actually uses in their environment and recorded that power value as their company allocated values and mandate its use in commissioning. Whatever the power governance policy is for your company and site, select it here. In this session, I'm going to select the company allocation value of 360 watts. Next is the opportunity to select a server from my storage room to be commissioned. Clicking on Select from Storage button presents a drop-down list of the requested server type that are available in my storage room. If there are none, the list will be empty, which is the case here. Now we're at the redundancy type field. It has been pre-selected by the requester to UPS redundancy. But at this point, it would be good to review redundancy type options. By far the most common is UPS redundancy. However, UPS redundancy is also the most expensive in that two completely separate power chains must be installed to support servers with this redundancy level. UPS redundancy is for high availability servers, such that one UPS can be taken out of service without bringing the servers down. Circuit redundancy only requires one UPS, but two distinct circuits to support servers. In this case, one circuit can be taken out of service without bringing down the server. And no redundancy means the server is powered by a single circuit, which, if lost, will result in the server going down. An occasion when UPS redundancy may not be desired is for mirrored servers. Another occasion is for non-critical servers that can go down without causing service interruptions. We will leave our selection as UPS redundancy. Continuing down the form, we see that the requester is asking for one production copper data cable and one management Ethernet copper data cable be connected to this server. Note the checkbox to enable cable requirements. Leave this checkbox checked if you are tracking and maintaining your data cable infrastructure on the portal. Conversely, if you're not tracking cables on the portal, then uncheck the checkbox so the planning algorithms do not look for cables. In this demonstration, we are tracking cables, so I will leave the Enable Cable Requirements checkbox checked. With this form completed, click OK to proceed to the Capacity Planning Commission Reservation page. This page is divided into two sections, the header section and the rack list section. In the header section, there is information from the request. For example, the request ID number, the installation date being requested, what's the device make and model, how many of these devices are being requested, the functional group, the beginning rack and the ending rack, where the requester would like these devices installed. There's also device detail information about the Dell R720 being requested, how many what its weight is in kilograms, what the power by allocation rule that is being used, the redundancy type, and whether the commission procedure is going to be looking for cables. The rack list section of this page displays the racks analyzed in the what-if scenario. In this case, the request stipulated the device be installed in a compute rack in the rack range A5 to A10. In this case, racks A6 through A10 are in fact compute racks and are considered in this list. The rack list analyzes each rack to determine if it possesses the required power, space, weight, cooling, and cables being required to support the device. The first column in the rack list is the rack name. The second column displays the results of the what-if analysis and indicates how many of the requested device can be safely installed in each rack. If you're only interested in the results of the analysis, you needn't look at any additional columns. However, the additional columns display valuable and very interesting data. The third column displays the number of Dell R720s that can be installed in each rack, considering only the rack unit space in the rack. We see that rack A8 has enough rack units for 4 Dell R720s, and A10 also has room for 4 by rack unit space. The fourth column tells how many Dell R720s can be put in each rack, considering weight thresholds. And each of these racks can handle quite a few Dell R720s before breaching their weight threshold. The next column is available devices by policy. Policy is generally related to cooling, but can be related to other threshold criteria. In this case, 11 R720s can be put in rack A6, 12 in A8 without violating any policy statements. Next is how many R720s can be supported by the circuits in the rack. In rack A8, it will support 6 R720s by circuit A10-1, and so forth down the page. We can see how many R720s can be supported by the panels, the PDUs, the UPSs, and the generators. And finally, we have the cable requirements. How many R720s can be supported in each rack by the cables that are available at that rack. Since this requester requested one production copper cable for each device and one management, those are the cable requirements that are displayed here. The final column is the reservation column, where we indicate which rack we want to actually commission device into. But before I populate this column, let me highlight a few other special features of this page. You can see we are powering by a company allocated 360 watts. What if I change the power by to the faceplate 800 watts? By clicking that radio button and refreshing the page, I now see that I can only put 2 devices in rack A08, where previously I could have put 4. But that's because I'm allocating almost twice as many watts based on this allocation rule. I'll go back to using the 360 watt rule, refresh, and now I see I can put 4 devices here. Also, I can see that this requested 3 devices to be installed, and I can see that 1 has already been installed or been reserved. So there are only 2 more reservations that I need to make. In this case, I'm going to put them in rack A08. I'll go to my reservation column, enter a 2, and then go to my Reserve in Production button. Click Reserve in Production. That opens up the rack elevation for me to identify what rack units I want the devices placed in. Before selecting a rack unit, let's look at the back of the rack to see if there's anything that will interfere in rack units 31 to 42. Clicking on the back view, I see yes, there is an item located in the back of the rack in RU34. So going back to the front of the rack, since I have 2 R720s to install, I'll put the first one in rack unit 31 and the next one in rack unit 35, and that should be fine. After I've placed my racks or my devices, I'll click Production Reserve. The scenario successfully reserved, and it brings me to my reservation page. The reservation page is listing all of my open reservations currently, but I can see quickly the 2 reservations in rack A08, RU31, and 35 that I just completed. Let's take a look at the work orders that we're creating. Each one of these icons will display various details on these reservations. This will show the work orders. This will allow me to take a picture when I install the device and connect that picture to the request for auditing purposes later. I can edit the device information. I can edit the power and cable information. Let's just take a look at the work order for the unit in RU31. Clicking on that, I can see that the device information is A08 RU31, Dell R720, a temporary host name. The portal is automatically selected the 2 power circuits to be used and also automatically selected available cables. This work order can be printed out using this print icon, or can be taken out to rack A08 on a tablet by a technician to actually perform the installation at the appropriate time. Well, again, that was a lot, quite a mouthful. That's it for this session on planning commissions and producing work orders. I hope you have a great day.